Welcome to TheWolverine.com video of the Michigan Hockey Former Player Roundtable. We bring in Rudin, a former goalie, and Brandon Kaliniecki, a former forward for Michigan, to talk about the first exhibition game that the Wolverines had, and then a big showdown tomorrow night, regular season opener against Boston College, an elite team from Hockey East coming into Yost. A lot of excitement. We'll get to that in a minute. First, we want to talk about the exhibition game. Open up against Waterloo on Sunday. Noah, you were in attendance. What were some of the things that you came away with that game from?
Well, I think first and foremost, they lost 2-1, and I think we got to let everyone know that that shouldn't matter. The score doesn't matter. Losing the exhibition isn't what was important. What was important is what you saw from your team, and there were a lot of freshmen in that lineup, and quite frankly, what I took away from it, especially early on, I thought it looked good. They had good breakouts. The D were passing crisply. Some physical play that led to some hits and some turnovers and some shots. Couldn't capitalize. I think some of the younger players are still adjusting to the speed of the game and how quickly their chances can turn on them into no plays if they don't, take advantage of it. But overall, I thought they looked pretty good through the course of the game. Obviously, it didn't turn out the way they wanted to, but I was pleased with the overall pace and the overall play.
Well, it's interesting because so many years, I've been covering this team for this my 12th hockey season. So many years it seems like there's maybe a Friday night exhibition game, and the following day, Saturday, you're playing a regular season game with so many young freshmen. How much will it help that the game was on Sunday and they're not playing a regular season game again until Thursday? They have a couple of days of practice to kind of, okay, this is what we have to now do to get up to speed.
I think especially because of the result being the way it was, you lose 2-1. That this is beneficial of not playing until Thursday. It gives them a chance to look at the video, kind of see a couple of mistakes that ended up in the back of the net, and look at the chances for it. And, kind of gives you some time to look at the game, take a step back, and say, all right, the result was what it was, but we played well, we created chances. Unfortunately, we weren't able to finish those. And then at the same time, let's some of the younger guys see, hey, it can turn around in a hurry. If you lose the game 2-1, you have a chance to outplay the other team, but you lost the game, and you can kind of look at some things and make improvements on it.
And I think from the coach's standpoint too, this lineup that we saw the other night against Waterloo wasn't the lineup they're going to throw against BC. There's a lot of freshmen, there's a lot of players that are just looking to get ice on the coaches to evaluate. And instead of having to make a knee-jerk reaction and turn around and put a certain lineup out there against what we'll talk about, a very strong BC team coming in, the coaches will have a few days to evaluate that and see what lines they actually did like and what players they want to throw into this game, so that you have, at least at the beginning of the season, the best possible lineup they can for an early showdown. So I agree. I think the time off here can be very beneficial for a young team.
Well, the thing too is, and we were talking about this before we went on camera, but this is a big game for Waterloo. I mean, they treated it as, as maybe almost like their Stanley Cup. I mean, all that emotion going into it. Not to say that Michigan goes into it going, we're just going to go through the motions. But when someone says, wow, they're going to get killed by Boston College because they lost to Waterloo, but there's going to be a different intensity on the ice on Thursday than we saw on Sunday.
Yeah, and again, like I said at the start, losing to Waterloo, I think is an exhibition. And you can't be hung up on what the final score was if you see what the team was. And I would, second what you said, that Waterloo probably circled this on their calendars as we're going to Yost, we're playing Michigan. We have a chance to show these guys that we're good. Who knows what scouts are here? Michigan's going to draw a lot of people to watch them. They were playing to win this game. Was not saying Michigan wasn't, but it's a different mentality going into it. And we went through that a bunch. We played Waterloo, we played Toronto, and obviously everyone wants to show their best and always play their best. But it definitely is a little different mentality for the Michigan program coming into this as it is for that visiting exhibition team.
Yeah, it's tough on this end, because if you win the game 10-0, everybody says, oh, you're supposed to win that game 10-0. They say, oh, it doesn't matter. If you lose the game, well, all of a sudden, oh, it matters now. You know what I mean? It's an exhibition game. They got to look at how they played rather than the result. Just move forward.
Absolutely. Well, the game that does matter, tomorrow night, Boston College, two top 10 teams going at it. What is opening night like for you guys as a player? I mean, at first time, certainly they got a little bit of a feel for it, exhibition, but this place is going to be packed tomorrow night. When you come down, descending down the stairs from the locker room, depending on whether, I know sometimes goalies come out first, sometimes they come out last, but you come out there, what is that like? What are the jitters like on opening night?
Well, I'll tell you, I always like coming out first, and in at least my 4 years, either myself or Montoya or Billy Sauer always came out first. And I'm 31 years old, and I can't find many things more exhilarating than taking that first step on the ice and the band kicks up and starts playing, especially opening night, especially against a top 5 team. And I think the big issue is going to be, keeping those emotions in check and using that energy properly, because it will be raucous, it will be nuts, and especially for these players who has heard that fight song, but the freshmen who have not yet, that first step on the ice, it gets you going. It gets you really fired up, and you just got to make sure that you can control those, because I bet you they'll be skating around pretty quickly when they hit that ice tomorrow.
Yeah, it's going to be a completely different atmosphere than what we saw Sunday. And I think that's the biggest thing. It's Sunday's game. Sunday afternoon, they had a Sunday afternoon feel to it, whereas tomorrow night will not. It's going to be a completely different arena. And I was always on the other end. I always hung out towards the back, tried to be one of the last guys on the ice. Part of it is because you do need to control your emotions. You get out there, I didn't want to take that extra lap because I needed to save my energy. I didn't want to burn it all out.
I remember he was a skater. It wasn't pretty. So.
But it's true. It's true. I had to save every shot I could possibly get for the game. So I tried to.
Talking to former football players, they've often said that coming down that tunnel, some guys have vomited, some guys have actually urinated down their side of their leg because they're so nervous. Has there ever been in a situation where you're coming on the ice and someone trips that first step, boom, wipes out?
That would be. I've done it for sure. Actually, my freshman year, one of our first games, stepping out, my pad strap was loose, and the first stride out there, I was pretty jacked up and slid all the way across the blue line. Couldn't get my sea legs out, but. You get excited. I mean, there's a lot of energy, especially with Michigan and the build up to us coming onto the ice or onto the football field. We're upstairs. We're not sitting down ice level. There's a nice. They make sure that we have the time to kind of get the feel, and it builds up inside too.
Again, with the Kaliniecki skates, I'm sure he's probably done at least.
Not because of that. It's another skater, so I fell all the time. Just got used to it. But there's a lot of nerves when you're walking down there. Walking down the steps, getting on, because you can hear the crowd, you can hear the music, and the way Yost kind of works, where you just kind of slowly come out that tunnel, and it just is it's an experience like nothing else.
By the way, every time I give Brandon a hard time, let's remind myself that I didn't play college hockey.
And he's a 20-goal scorer at a Division I school.
21 goal scorer at Michigan.
I'll defend him.
And those were all epic great setups. So some of it was a little bit on his own.
Some had 6 setups. Yeah. It really wasn't a whole lot with me. I just stick on the ice and they hit it.
There you go. Well, it's interesting. One of the things that, and you guys probably know this even better than I do, but if you ask me, what can you expect out of Boston College this week? What kind of team are they? Tell me some of their best players. And I always ask, when I always say to Red, how do you scout these guys? What do you look for? And Red always comes back and says, I don't really tell my guys. I mean, we may look at some of them and say, this is a player you have to watch out for. This is a line we have to pay attention to. We want to match up our best line against their best line. But if we take care of our business and do what a Michigan hockey team is supposed to do, I don't need to have a 2-hour scouting report on Boston College. We play our game, we're going to win. How often was that the mantra in the locker room, and that it wasn't about what they did, but about what we did?
I think it was often because we knew, and that's typically how good teams approach things, because they know that they have the talent and the ability in their locker room to win any game. So you might want to scout and just know what you're going up against, but if we take care of our business and play our game, you can beat any team. And I will say with Boston College, and I think we'll get into this in a little bit, they're very similar to Michigan in that sense. They've always had a strong program. They have another one coming in this year. They always seem to reload. And I'm sure they're thinking the same thing of, hey, we've been to Michigan before, we know what it's like, and they're probably thinking the same of, we'll take care of ours, we'll be okay.
Yeah, that's kind of always been the case here. They scout them, they give you about a 10-minute briefing on what you're going to expect. They'll give the scouting report, give you some line combinations, but they don't go into great detail because the bottom line is you have to play your hockey game. And that kind of works for all teams. You can't change who you are. It's not like they're going to approach Boston College a completely different way than they're going to approach Minnesota. They're still going to
schemes are schemes, and those don't change.
Well, I think that's a big thing too. When you look at football, every play is getting reset and something different. I mean, you look at a defense looking, okay, there's 100 different plays that they can run at us. You really have to know your opponent. In hockey, the game is moving so quickly. Now they may, on their penalty kill, they may attack the guys a little bit differently. On their power play, they may space guys out a little bit differently. There are different ways that you can do things. And obviously, when the Red Wings came into power, the left wing lock became something very famous, and you have to know if a certain team's going to do that. But it's not like it's you're stopping after every shift and going, okay, this is what they're going to do on this particular shift.
Right, but again, that's a scheme too. You're going to left wing lock. That's a system they had in place, and they did it every game. They didn't change it based on the team they were playing. And when he went to play Detroit or the Devils or whoever it was, that was their style of play the whole year. So if that's our style of play the whole year, no matter who's coming in, we know what we're going to be playing, and that's our game. So it doesn't matter as much what they're doing. Now, when you bring up special teams, it always does change. You're right. What their power play, what certain plays like to run, we will go on that. But that's a separate meeting we would always have. That wouldn't be a full team 2-week scouting report. They would bring in the power play unit, or they bring in the goalies and the PK unit, and they say this is what they like to do. They set a guy up high, let it be one-time receiver. So it'd be a little more strategy, but in the general scheme of things, you're right. It was more or less worry about in-house.
Yeah, it's a lot of minor adjustments. That's the biggest thing that they get out of the scouting reports. They do, just very minor adjustments on what to expect of their forecheck. You know they're going to be coming in at you, and they're going to be coming hard. So just give you an idea. Some teams, the third guy is just a little bit higher than others. Maybe a little bit more passive. You may find yourself in a little bit more time in this situation as opposed to this one. And that's kind of what they like try to prepare you for. But it's not changing their whole approach to that.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, for especially a first game like this, Boston College is being coached by the same guy that's been there for almost as long as Brad has been at Michigan. Jerry York, who's a great coach, has a lot of success at Boston College, and they're going to do things that they've been doing for the last 10, 15, 20 years. But you don't really know the personnel yet because you're looking at maybe film of last year. So how much does that first period, it's almost a feeling out period, okay, get a sense for who this team is, then go in the locker room and go, okay, this is what we have to adjust a little bit differently in our game.
Definitely. So like Cal said, a lot of minor adjustments, and going back to the football analogies we've been using, halftime adjustments are what wins games a lot of times. In football, well, it's the same as hockey. Is you get a feel for what their lines can do, who has speed, who doesn't, and touching on what you said, Jerry York has been there for a long time, and they're similar to Michigan in the fact of what type of players like to recruit, the Gerbies and the smaller, faster players that can score, and they constantly recruit those type of players, so you have an idea of what they're going to get. I will say this year they have a lot of incoming freshmen as well, so you're going to know even less because there isn't film on these guys. Now maybe Michigan recruited a few of them, but you're really not going to know what you're getting into. And it will definitely be we know they're quick. We know what their size looks like. We may have recruited a few of these guys, so we know what they did in juniors, but it will be that first period to see what they're going to actually get at them.
Well, last I want to talk about real quick, have a little bit of fun with this. I know I asked you, I think 2 weeks ago, who's going to win the national championship, and it was Michigan, and who's going to win the Big Ten title, and it was Michigan. But looking at this team, and certainly so many things can change. But looking at this forwards, they haven't had a 20-goal scorer in a couple of years. As a 20-goal scorer, did they get one this year?
Yes.
And do you have any thoughts on who that might be, or are you just gonna someone? Okay.
If he can get himself back in the lineup.
Yeah, if he's got to stay out of trouble a little bit. We don't know. Red didn't want to reveal what it was, but he said something happened this summer. It was a discipline issue. We have certain expectations for these guys to live up to, and he's going to be suspended for at least one game, for probably this Boston College game, maybe for 2 games. So he's got to get his head on straight because he has that potential to be a great player, and they certainly need their best players. That's one of the other. Red has a lot of these little, Redisms, as we kind of call it in the media. And one of them is our best players have to be our best players, and he is one of their best. And it's going to hurt them a lot that he's not out there on Thursday night.
Yeah, no, it sounds like an obvious thing to say that your best players, but it's 100% true. And BC is going to bring a strong challenge. They're the 4th-ranked team in the country. They're picked to be co-champions of Hockey East, which is not an easy conference. They're co-champions picked with UMass Lowell, who's number 1 in the country preseason. Number 3 is going to be New Hampshire, and then Boston University. So they're picked in front of good teams, and what those teams have in common, they're all on Michigan's schedule in the first few weeks.
Yeah.
So going back to your national champion question that you're riveted at, does Michigan have it, what it takes? Obviously, we'd like to see it, but I think in about 3 weeks, you're really going to see where Michigan stands up to these powerhouses, these preseason ranking powerhouses on the East Coast. So it's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it'll be an interesting couple of weeks, that's for sure. It's going to be exciting at the same time, but we'll kind of find out what you have in that locker room. I think that's going to be an exciting part for the coaches as well, is they're going to get to see what they have. They're going to kind of start to learn a little bit more about their freshmen, who's going to be able to really play at this level, who's not, who's going to take some time to be able to play at this level. That's a good way to start the season. Trial by fire, basically.
Absolutely. Well, gentlemen, thanks for joining me this week on former Michigan Hockey Player Roundtable from Yost Ice Arena. We will watch Boston College and Michigan play tomorrow night. And then next week when we get together, we'll have a lot more to talk about. We'll have some evidence to talk about what these guys are really capable of, and then we'll have a great series to look forward to. So thanks very much for joining us.
Thank you.